Hey, Anthony.
Hey Mark, how are you?
Good. So, Anthony has had responsibility for our corporate stores within newsXpress. And today we want to talk about one of our own businesses and the transformation that business has gone through. So, the business is currently known as newsXpress Mount Waverley. We bought it in April 2018 or thereabouts. And what if I just share the photos and we just sort of dive into the story and people can get a sense of what we're talking about? This is the business that we bought in 2018, and the previous owners had actually had some tax troubles. And so Caddy's Cards and Records, which was a music shop and a card shop, was in the process of closing down. And that's the business we took over. And we took it over, interestingly, because it was very strong in cards. We had no interest in the records and music side of the business. Um, and Anthony, our goal, because we didn't set out to buy this business, our goal in kind of taking over the closed business was to play in suburban retail, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just to have that high street experience. And yeah, that was our first high street shop.
And we made a commitment, you and I, that when we went into this, we wouldn't throw a lot of capital at it. We're going to use everything we could out of the existing business because the owners had walked away and left the tenancy. So we were really being frugal in the choices we were making about the business.
Yeah, so originally we there was no capital investment in terms of new fixturing. We used all the existing fixturing. The only thing we had to spend was removing some of the older fixturing that we no longer needed.
Hmm.
And we just did that ourselves and basically hired a company to just get rid of the rubbish once we removed it all. And it was, yeah, pretty easy.
And just for context, this is based in an area of Mount Waverley called Hamilton Place. And that is about 7 minutes from Chadstone. It's about 5 or 6 minutes from the Glen, which is a major
Yes.
shopping centre. You've got Forest Hill nearby, and it's a suburban area. Your average customer is around 70 plus,
Mhm.
some young families, but primarily 70 plus. So it's a true suburban business. Within this shopping precinct, three other retailers in the gift space, two discount variety stores, three pharmacies, a little bit of fashion, and a little bit of food. So it's genuinely a suburban type business. So for that first 6 months, we were kind of just settling into the business, starting to put in different products. And so we kind of fast forward to our first Christmas in the shop. And this is what the shop looked like. I mean, so this is December 2018. You can see all the traditional fixtures down the side. And Anthony, that's kind of a black wall. I think you put up a black curtain at the back.
Yeah, so we just needed some extra space in the back because we were running our ornament business out of that shop. So we just needed extra space for racking to
Hmm.
store the ornaments. And yeah, that that was an easy, cheap option
Yep.
versus putting up a wall.
So pretty traditional fixturing. We didn't spend any money on the fixturing. Spent a little bit of money on the black curtain, maybe 30 or 40 bucks. You mentioned the ornaments business. So we launched an online business at the back of this shop. Um, and I think it was probably 3, maybe 4 years later, that online business had grown so much that we had to move it out of that shop, and it's now its own standalone business running out of our office. So the online business became bigger than the shop itself in terms of revenue, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And I think for there, it was just space because of the number of SKUs and the quantities that we go through in that business. It just couldn't sustain the space. It would take up half the shop. So
Yep. So in those early years, we were frugal in what we did. We used as much of the existing fixtures as we could. Onto traditional shelving, we put in things like we played with the pop vinyl space. And then we started to play with doing displays sort of a little more interestingly, but there wasn't much we could do with these old fixtures. Um,
yeah. So I think yeah, using the paper and fabric as well. Chris
yeah.
gets fabric from Spotlight, which he puts behind the fixturing just to uplifted and yeah,
Yep.
make it look a little bit more attractive.
And so the first major investment, I think from memory, this was about what, 10 or $12,000?
Uh, I think around 10, I think it was
Okay.
9, 10.
So pulled up the carpet, pulled up the whatever that is underneath the carpet, sort of.
Oh, that's
Oh,
that's
that's
the
the
underlay,
underlay.
the
So
nice cushy underlay.
yeah, pulled up the carpet that was there, put in a really nice underlay, and then laid the carpet down. And that was the first kind of major capital investment. So here we are. That's at that point probably 3 years in.
Uh, yeah, I think it was about
Um,
2 3 years in it.
and so $10,000, that's our most significant investment in the business. Meanwhile, the business itself is trading well. We're bringing in new customers, but we're being, again, very careful in how we're spending the money. I was down in the shop the other day, and this is a photo that I took of the business as it stands right now. And the big difference is, of course, the carpet's there, and it was a bit dusty, so excuse the dust on the floor. But down that left wall, you pulled off all of the traditional fixtures that were on that wall, and tell us what you did there.
So yeah, so the fixtures were pulled off that wall, and we worked with one of our colleagues, Michael, who is our card expert, and we relayed that wall with cards and gift wrap. In terms of the fixturing, we just hired a local handyman. He removed it all. Installed the slat wall, and it was much cheaper than getting shop fitters out.
And what it gave us was this clean line down the left-hand side, and it gave us fixturing that over which we had complete control, and we've got
Hmm.
flexibility to move things around as we want to during the seasons. The other thing that you did was, if we're standing at the front of the shop and comparing this to the photo from 3 or so years earlier, you pulled out the card unit that was right here at the front, just as you
Yeah,
inside the
so
door.
probably the card unit probably came up to or probably just past that table in the photo, closest to. So, you know, if you zoom out again, so yeah, it came all the way up to basically where that basket is on the floor, in the bottom left of the photo. So yeah, we removed half of the unit, so it really opened up the shop floor, so we could have tables to display gift.
And we'll go into it a bit later on, but you can see into that back area, it's where the kind of the white is around that. That's where the black curtain was, and you've now opened up a whole new room in there.
Correct, yeah. So yeah, we just had the black fabric kind of covering half of that space, and so we put flat wall up, and then up top we actually put it's actually fake
Just a
kind of
greenery.
greenery panels. Yeah, that we originally had that behind the counter, and we were thinking, what do we do with that space? And then we wanted to change behind the counter, and we thought, well, if it fits it, we'll repurpose it. So Chris actually installed that up there himself during business hours. So
So by the time we get to this point, we've got the $10,000 carpet. And how much was that wall on the left? What did we spend on?
well, I think that wall, the back wall, so installing the removal plus the fixturing, I think that was around the 8.5, 9,000 mark.
So we're still just below this $20,000 mark in terms of this transformation of the shop. And look, it's not the slickest and most beautiful looking shop in the world, but we're doing this on a budget to show what can be done on a budget. And so as part of that, we're still on the right-hand side, we've got the traditional kind of slat wall and the boxed fixtures there, but we're using that as flexibly as we can. So just as you step inside the front door right now, we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of Jellycat with this display. And then if we look closer at the left-hand wall, we've got this card wall that you were talking about. The shoppers are really loving.
Yeah, yeah. Well, having the cards full face means that people aren't touching them as much. During COVID, that was the customers really like that. You can see the whole design, and because of the size of the wall, the range we have is we have the biggest card range in the area.
And these are what they call lifestyle cards, and our sales of these continue to grow. And this wall is a key feature of what's helping that to happen. So if we go to the back of the shop, right down into the back and right-hand corner, if you're facing into the shop, so I'm standing just not in the corner, but just in front of that little kids' room that we'll look at in a moment, looking towards the front of the shop. So this is the old card fixture, but this is only half the size of what it used to be.
Correct. Yeah.
And this is where we have our everyday cards on both sides. Um, and then I'm looking up the other side to the front of the shop. So we've got the card wall here on our right and the old card fixture there. So you get a sense of kind of how many cards the shop has.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
we step into that
Sorry,
room.
I just wanted to go back on the cards. So on the cards too, because originally it was basically double that space. So one side was lifestyle, the other side was everyday.
Mm.
We've actually reduced our card range, but we've increased our sales because of the work that's gone behind design and the range, and basically, looking at what captions are performing and increasing those captions, look at what captions aren't performing, and of course, reducing those captions.
And look, I want to say it was we reduced the total card space and therefore the investment in cards by about 25%, but we've
Correct.
increased it,
Yes.
increased card sales, card revenue as a result. And that's, it's a cliche, but less is more in this
Mm.
situation. It's worked really well for us.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're in the kind of this back room area. This used to be covered by the black fabric wall, and this is where we created the online ornaments business that's now got so big it's had to move out of the shop. Um, and you were in the shop so this is a photo from about 2 weeks ago. You were in the shop, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks ago as well, and you came
Mm.
back to the office and you said to me that were you were really impressed with how it's looking. It really surprised you at how kind of warm it feels and enjoyable it feels.
Yeah, it was my first time there in a few months, and how it's merchandised, how it's zoned. Chris, the manager there, has done an excellent job. And
So
even in terms of the detail, I think in one of the photos you've got the squishmallows, and
yeah,
he's gone out and sourced squishmallow fabric to put behind the squishmallow area, so it really ties it in nicely.
so we'll see the detail in a moment, but I just want to call out you've got this sort of fabric over here. You've got fabric on the back here with Jellycat and fabric here. I think that's Bunnies by the Bay.
Yeah.
So he's using fabric wall hangings to kind of segment each of these to really create wonderful stories within the business and to create a very warm experience. I mean, if you look at what he's done with the bum bums there, he's used the signage, um, uh, and he's able to help just create something that looks far more appealing, I think,
Mm.
in that sense. Um, all right, so let me just go back here. I've I've lost my spot. Just 1 second. And so with the bum bums, that fabric I think makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It does. Well, that thing, yeah. Above it, you just have empty white space, or
Yeah,
in between, yeah, you just have that empty white space, and I think it really kind of just themes it well.
that's the fabric you were talking about with Squishmallows. Chris
Yes.
sourced that from Spotlight or somewhere like that,
Yeah.
and used that as a backdrop, and it just really helps tell or create the narrative around Squishmallows, I think.
Mm.
Um, he also started experimenting. So Chris, um, he's very interested in pop culture and uh, kind of trends. So he got onto these teddy bears, uh, brought in the first release into Australia of teddy bears. They sold through. So we're now We've got the second release in, and they're working really well. There's a really good story behind Teddy Bears, and there's a whole lot of fun, and they cater to a very different plus shopper. And so they're working really well within the business. The other thing that he does, I don't know if you noticed when you were there, but a lot of spaces within the shop, he'll do this, where he's got the product and then he's got a sample out for people to play with.
Yeah. You'll most of the products will have a sample out because in retail everyone will open it up and sample it themselves. So at least this way, there's one sample, and they're not damaging other product.
But it's also showing people that they can immerse themselves in the shop experience.
Yeah, like with that product there, that's a really good seller. It's very tactile.
Mm.
He was saying yeah, just the way it moves and the sounds it makes.
Yeah.
People just pick it up and start playing, and then they end up buying it.
This is at the entrance to that kind of kids' room, or sorry, it's heading towards the kids' room. It's halfway down the shop. And so it's this really fun area of creative product, uh, bright, colourful. And that's part of the principle of the shop now, isn't it? It's about kind of this cheerfulness, this cheerful retail experience.
Yeah. And I think it's about trying new product as well, but also theming it well and yeah, this is a great example. We never really had coloring product and things like that, but we thought, well, we'll give it a go, and it's proving to work well.
Wherever possible, things are zoned. So we've kind of in the pet section now, where we've got a range of pet products and dog chews and things like that for people to play with, which is really interesting and helpful. But one of the big success stories, when Chris, the current manager, got involved in the business, I think between he and you were talking about it and you said, let's try Pokemon in this shop that primarily serves 70 plus year old shoppers. And Pokemon has become one of the most successful licensed products we have in the shop.
Yeah, look, you've got people buying it for their grandkids, but then you've also got the collectors that know where we are, and they are a small group, but they're a dedicated group, and they buy up big.
Oh, look, they love it. And
Mm.
the funny thing is to see say an 80-year-old grandfather go in and be thrilled to get the latest Pokemon collector pack for a grandchild or a great grandchild is just a wonderful thing to see.
Yeah,
Um, so the focus on the shop now is about creating these zones with lots of different visual textures, visual fixtures. None of it is made specifically for the shop, is it? These are all items that we've just gone out and bought from anywhere and not spent much
honestly, I think
money.
some of them came out from Super Amart,
Yeah.
a couple of Kia fixtures. Yeah, so nothing's purpose built.
And we're not spending much money on the fixtures.
No, no.
And even with the old traditional fixtures we have, which is this side on the right-hand side, Chris is still doing things to make it look more appealing.
Yeah, so we've got fake flowers as you see, and yeah, he's got the fabric behind that one as well. So
Yeah. One of the areas of the business that does really well is our gift packaging. And I think that's because it's displayed the way it is with the packaging there, the ribbons and bows, the tissue. It's common for people to buy at least a bag and some tissue so that they're telling a really nice story with the gift that they're giving. This goes back to what you were saying about the cards being easily shoppable. These bags are very accessible and easily shopped.
yeah, well, I mean, normally bags are put at the kind of back of the card section. So I think at Knox is when we moved them to the front, and on the back of that at Mount Waverley, we decided to put the gift wrap at the front as well.
Yeah. Um, The other thing is we have displays like this where we have products from a number of different suppliers. We're able to tell a really cool story. So if you look at this, we have, I think this is the English tea ladies teapot. We have a giving plate and you've got one or two greeting cards there. One of the things that we're sort of a bit obsessed about is making sure that we're representing multiple categories of products into a single display. So if you look at just this display here, um, you've got the cards, you've got the giving plate, you've got the tea set, you've got this vase sitting on some wood, you've got the Lisa Pollock picnic hamper, you've got the drink bottle, you've got another card. It's all there, and it. I think it's a really nice piece of visual merchandising.
Yeah, I think all up you probably got to you have about 8 brands on on that table
So one thing
represented.
we don't do is we don't do big displays, or we try and avoid big displays with just one supplier's product or one brand on there, because shoppers today really, certainly from a treasure hunt retail perspective, shoppers aren't shopping for that one big brand. They're looking at something like this, I think, that tells a better story.
Yeah, yeah. Look, yeah, yeah. It depends on the product. Like with Squishmallows, that's a different
Yeah,
shopper.
very
They're there
different.
for a purpose, for a reason. With
Yep.
this, it's about that person looking for that gift, and that, yeah, as you said, that treasure hunt retail.
Yep. Um, And then, we've got our sensory area where people are able to engage with things. We've also got blind boxes. Blind boxes do very well in the shop. So we're catering to a broad range as much as we can within the limited space that we've got. And we're also giving people opportunities to, particularly the grandparents in our marketplace, to be able to cover birthdays and Christmases and those sorts of things.
Yeah,
Um,
and in terms of the price points vary from $5 up to two, three, $400. So
yeah.
we've got kind of all bases covered.
This shop, even though it's called newsXpress Mount Waverley, it doesn't have magazines. It doesn't do lotteries, doesn't do tobacco. The only kind of nod to the news agency shingle is that it sells newspapers. And we introduced probably 12 months ago this very small range of stationery, which is actually selling very well. Um, we just did it as an experiment, and the experiment's paying off. Um, so we're playing in the handbag space, which is doing well. Um, Lisa Pollock, as I mentioned before, which is also doing very, very well. And then we do something like this, a bit quirky. There are a few people in Mount Waverley who kind of love the fact that they can look at that and think, well, this is my bucket list of trips, and I can get to New York, which is 16,660 kilometers away. So we do things like that are a bit different. The other thing, Anthony, that we did with this shop was because we created the website, um, that did so well, and we had to move it out of the shop. A few weeks ago, we finally got around to creating a second website, and to give this business another online presence. Now, we've called that website Hugs and Love. It took us literally only 2 weeks to get the website up and running in its present form. So we spent 2 weeks doing that. The website's been running now for just under a month, and it's done close to $6,000 in sales. We're not spending anything to promote the business. We're literally just doing good things around putting the right product on there and making sure the descriptions are good. And this is flowing automatically across our point of sale software. So if we have, for example, if we look at, say, Jellycat, which is a well-known brand, we're using really nice photos. We have good descriptive information there about the product. And we make it easy for people to find us through SEO. And then we are regularly publishing stories about this. So, we are doing things like there's an article up there about teddy bears, for example, and that's published, and that will help generate interest from people when they're looking at the products that we happen to offer within the business. So Hugs and Love is a new website that we've created because the other one was moved out of the shop. We wanted to have some other online presence for the business. Um, and early days, it's working pretty well. We're pretty happy with that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's working really well.
uh, when you think of Mount Waverley, um, and the shop itself, uh, from a head office point of view, we we don't give it a lot of love, to be honest, do we?
No, yeah, no. Well, look, that's the thing. The goal there was to really not spend anything.
Yeah.
and just to build upon just its success, and yeah, just keep adding and doing things in the long term.
And talking through the kind of the shop fit changes that we've made, the carpet and that wall down the left-hand side. When you were looking at people you could engage with to do that work, um, you didn't use traditional shop fitters, and you kind of had a budget in mind, and you were really focused on trying to get the best quality work for a minimal budget.
Yeah, and like with carpet, most people would say put, tiles or floorboards because they're easy to maintain. With the carpet, we wanted something that was kind of more homely and inviting, and the carpet we went with in the underlay, it just gives us that really nice feel where you just want to stay and browse.
And look, we also know with older shoppers, leg pain is common.
Mm.
And so providing something that is really comfortable underfoot, with the underlay you've chosen, it really does feel like you're walking on soft, gentle clouds. And it's stable, but it's also very gentle on your feet. So people enjoy standing on it.
Yeah, I think for us that was a really good investment in that carpet, even though it takes a little bit more maintenance.
Yeah. Um, The other thing we do with the shop is so there's the shop itself and the retail sales, and then the first online business, and now the second online business. But we look at things, and if things aren't performing, because we're really kind of driven by numbers, we'll make decisions to cut things and get out of spaces.
Yeah, I mean that store has gone through a few different kind of yeah gift ranges and things like that. Originally, we were very female focused in terms of the homewares and the gifting, um, but that did not do well at all. So we basically just cleared it out, and then we yeah kind of went more along the kids lines and the pop culture stuff, but still keeping some of the traditional giftware as well. So yeah, when that shop when we first took over and what we put in there versus now, it's very, very different.
Yeah, look at it. And the thing is, if you think about 2018 now to 2024, it is very different. But even if you think of about 2024 versus this time last year,
Mm.
it's very different, just even in that 12-month period. And we're not, there's no back room for storing stock. Oh, there's a tiny back room, but we're not storing stock in there. Um, Obviously, because the cliche is right, you can't sell what people can't see, certainly to physical shoppers. But the other thing is, uh, because we're using it as an experimental place, we want to move through a range of product fairly quickly just to see what sells. And I know we'll put sometimes we'll put stock there saying this will never sell in Mount Waverley. And I think Pokemon was kind of part of that, wasn't it? The thought was, let's put Pokemon there. I can't imagine it selling. And
Mm.
now it's a significant revenue contributor.
Yeah, for us, Pokemon was a surprise because yeah, like it doesn't fit the demographic of the area.
No.
But yeah, it's going extremely well, and online is proving to facilitate kind of helping move some of the older stock as well, because you've got people who are hunting for that product. So having the website helps a lot with yeah, just us not having to clear product, it sells it at full price online.
So a question without notice. What do you have any regrets about the business?
Um, I wouldn't.
Or
Oh,
things you
probably.
wish we'd done differently?
Well, looking at, I say, like the current range is kind of doing that a little bit earlier.
Mm,
You can always do that, but the thing is, we've made that move now, and we've got that product in,
mm.
and we're building upon that. So we're learning from our mistakes and we're not going back and repeating those mistakes.
I think our next step is to rebrand the business, to give it some other name other than newsXpress Mount Waverley, even though it's still part of the newsXpress group. Give it some other name that helps people driving past in that car park think, oh, that's something else.
Look, yeah, I mean, yeah, look, if anything, that could be one thing is, yeah, is the name of the business because, people see News Express and I think, oh, we're in magazines and but
Mm,
we have everything but magazines.
mm. The two other points I'd make. One is the shop always smells good, has a really nice scent to it. And secondly, the music that is being played in the shop is music people are going to know and will either hum to or possibly sing to or at least wiggle to. So the music is very accessible to people. It's not kind of weird doof doof music or something like that.
No, it's a fun vibe in the shop in terms of the music and the atmosphere and
Yeah.
Chris's humor and everything. So yeah, that's good.
If you owned the shop and it was your only source of income, like your only source of income, what would you do right now to change it?
Um, Look, probably driving online more.
Hmm.
Um, because we are pulling from our local area, but online expands that.
Yep.
And any sales you can make while you're at home, while you're sleeping,
Yep.
uh, a sales, yeah, you're not going to make in the shop. So
Well, the funny thing is, if you look at the online sales that Hugs and Love, the website of the shop has got in its first kind of less than a month of trading, um, I think only one or two of the sales have been for click and collect. Everything else has been posted.
mm,
And I think most of it's been out of state,
yeah,
which is wonderful. I mean, that's really what you want the online experience to be about.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Look, thank you for joining in. Appreciate the insights you've shared. And thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.